Twitch, the stealth assassin marksman, now turned into an AOE damage armor shredding tank. This is Macius, a Challenger Twitch main who climbed there with this new tank build. Refusing to let Season 13 champions and high damage ruin his fun, he invented a new build and playstyle that allows him to still deal really high damage, but now never dies to assassins or bruisers. Able to 1 vs 9 carry games while also being a frontline for his team. Also inventing a very unique laning game plan, where he avoids Twitch's main weakness in lane by buying a Tiamat, fast pushing the wave and roaming for free surprise kills. This build is even safer than normal Twitch, doing things an AD carry should not be allowed to do. If you dive him, he just tanks all the damage and then kills you, but if he surprises enemies, he can still kill all of them. This is Tank Twitch, the perfect way to counter the meta and climb. There's so much to keep track of in-game, especially when you're trying the latest off-meta pick, so why not use Mobalytics, the ultimate desktop companion for League, and our sponsor. With Mobalytics, you can focus all of your energy on playing the latest off-meta pick, and worry less about the details. You won't miss when a fed enemy Zed buys a huge item, as Mobalytics will warn you with an item pop-up, or plan a comeback when you see how your gold compares to your opponents. Even if a lead feels insurmountable, it becomes achievable when you see the actual gold lead information. So much easier to keep your head in the game, instead of tilting. All this in addition to features like summoner spell tracking and jungle timers. After the game you can see how well you played, seeing exactly how good or bad you were at each point of the game, and measure your performance across 8 skills. My favourite part of Mobalytics is the specific tips it gives you for every champion, including combos and when you should use them in-game. I love the Mobalytics app, it's a huge improvement from anything I've used in the past, and I highly recommend you download it for free from the link in the description, and start climbing right away. Back to Tank Twitch and our player Macius. You can really see the power of this pick here, with just a few items and a tank mythic. He gets focused down by an enemy Gwen, Kha'Zix, and even Akali, 3 people that should one-shot him, and even with these 3 people diving him, he survives. If 3 high-damage assassins cannot kill you as an AD carry, your build must be very good. Macius is from Poland, playing on EU West, and he started League in Season 3, where he was hard-stuck bronze. By Season 7, he needed a break from this, swapping to Fortnite, and surprisingly becoming a professional player, ending up winning over $10,000 in competitions. But his League of Legends itch never left, so by Season 10 he was back, and surprisingly better than ever. After years of spam building in Fortnite, he could not play a slow champion. He needed something mechanical, with fast outplays and dodging of skill shots. This brought him to Twitch, the champion known for huge ult plays, and really a requirement of outplaying enemies as he has no dashes. Hitting Master with his new favourite champion, he began to struggle, losing his desire to even play, as he was always playing against enemies who could one-shot him, not just assassins, but even tanks and bruisers. Entering Practice Tool and creating a new tank build. Runans, Titanic Hydra, Black Cleaver, and JAKSHO. The idea had been there in the past, but with the addition of Cleaver and JAKSHO, the champion became completely different. Runans and Titanic Hydra alone are ideal damage items for Twitch, stacking together to create zones of Titanic damage from each bolt of the Runans, comboing this with Twitch's ult for even more AoE damage, and a Black Cleaver to shred enemies' armor, so not only did he become a high health tank, but also gained a lot of AoE damage, becoming a super teamfight focused pick that can spread its damage on every enemy, while also providing armor shred and tankiness for utility. And since Twitch is surviving longer, the fights are longer, meaning JAKSHO stacks up even easier, gaining resistances and even healing him for a lot of the damage he deals. His mantra is that you cannot deal damage if you're dead, so even if the individual items in his build are lower damage, he can end up doing more than most AD carries in solo queue since he survives for longer, also hitting more enemies with this AoE damage and shredding their armor to help his teammates. He becomes a much more reliable carry, and Macius hit Challenger in Season 13 with this build. But that is only some of the advantages of this playstyle, so let's get into game to see the extra tricks he uses to make it even better. At level 1, you know Twitch has to be cheesing, taking his Q and invading with the stealth. This ability gives him a lot of options, leading the charge into the enemy jungle and using this extra attack speed to force enemies into a bad fight, or just be happy to waste their summoners right away at level 1. From there he moves to lane, choosing to never leash, instead using his Q to get a jump on enemies, even choosing to go for an all-in at level 1 in some matchups, such as when he's against champions with bad level 1 abilities, such as Samira or Alistar. The reason he goes for this is that from level 2 all the way to level 6, his champion becomes is much worse than most AD carries. This is a huge reason why he isn't popular in high elo, but our Twitch has a fix for this. At level 2, instead of looking for a fight, he takes his E and shoves the wave as fast as possible. Once it reaches the enemy tower and the enemy AD carry is busy, he's out of there, sprinting out of lane to roam. Twitch can walk into the jungle and stealth so enemies don't know where he is. Most likely they expect you to stealth back into lane, because a level 2 AD carry roam is almost never a thing. So when he shows up suddenly in mid lane, it's a great stun into a kill for Twitch, then able to safely return back to bot lane and collect the wave as it's pushing back into him. He can keep doing these roams, pushing the wave and go into the river or the enemy jungle to look for an advantageous fight. This is something enemies rarely ever see. It's always the support roaming while the AD carry sits back and collects CS. But this difference is one of the reasons why this player is high elo. If he's unable to get this push, then he is happy to wait till level 6 for it, staying in lane and making sure he's never wasting any skills or mana, as if he runs out of mana he can easily be bullied out of the lane, even choosing to buy a cull to help with the healing and sustain in early laning phase. This combos well with his Titanic Hydra later on, which gives him instant wave clear, making the cull very easy to farm. At level 6, everything changes, finally able to go for 2 versus 2s. He's not starting off the game as a tank, so he still has to be a very good player able to juke skill shots, never taking any free damage, so he's always practicing juking, and it can lead to some great outplays. Rushing his first important item, Tiamat. This instantly gives Twitch more wave clear than most other AD carries, so even if he's in a bad bot lane matchup, he doesn't mind. He's happy to hard push the wave with the Tiamat and then roam to mid lane again. There's no reason to take a losing matchup on Twitch when he can out wave clear them and create an advantage elsewhere, stealthing into the fight much before the enemy AD carry can arrive. He's now starting his tank build, a cheaper option that also has a much earlier damage spike. He doesn't have to farm to get 3 items constantly. Instead, he's able to participate in the game, moving around the map to join every fight. After Tiamat, he picks up Runan's Hurricane, comboing with the Tiamat for AOE damage, but also spreading his poison to every target it hits, so he can stack poison on multiple enemies without even hitting them, then finishing Titanic Hydra and adding in a Black Cleaver, using this huge AOE to stack it very quickly as he's hitting so many targets. Each stack inflicts 5% armor reduction up to 30% at 6 stacks, also giving Twitch bonus movement speed per stack, making it easier for him to kite. And the items have lots of ability haste as well, letting Twitch have more ultimates. Twitch ultimate is vital for every play he makes, so it just means he can make more, not having to save it only for the big fights. One thing this Twitch really recommends is fighting around minions, as each minion can also proc these AOE tools, activating Hydra and Black Cleaver much faster, instantly getting them to maximum stacks. These items can end up doing over 1000 damage to enemies who aren't even in the front line. This build is like a modern version of playing Severe, able to hit everyone in the fight at once, but with the extra health from the items and the extra range from his ultimate, he never has to put himself in danger. That is, unless he chooses to, because on Twitch he says you always have to be looking for stealth picks. It's the main advantage this champion has. On the meta build of Twitch, it's quite difficult. You have to know your exact damage and know full information about where enemies are and who you can kill. However, on tank Twitch, these plays are much simpler, as even mistakes can lead to good picks, with the tankiness saving him from making a bad play, turning it into a good one. On normal Twitch, this might have ended with a free objective for the enemies and a shutdown, but on tank Twitch, it works out no problem. His #1 rule on Twitch, and most important, is to always play at his limit, never being scared to take fights, even if they might be a bit stupid. If you're always testing your limits, you'll learn very quickly whether you can or can't go in. Luckily, tank Twitch is a lot easier and more forgiving than a normal build, being viable in all elos due to this lower risk in every part of the game, so the limits are much further away. Funnily, one of the best plays this Twitch can make is to get caught, or at least act like he's getting caught, with a couple of teammates nearby. Whether he legitimately makes a mistake like in this clip, or if he chooses to bait enemies in, it just takes them a lot longer to kill him than they expect. All this time he's stalling for his teammates to arrive, and outputting damage onto the enemy carries to push them out of the fight. He's still a big threat, forcing enemies to respect him, and this is where he buys JAKSHO, getting even tankier, even having the option to buy a third item if he's against lots of assassins. Instead of being easy for enemies to pick, he refuses to die. Champions like assassins, one of their main win conditions is taking advantage of killing the squishy AD carry and getting a lead from it. This Twitch refuses to let that happen, winning more fights because enemies underestimate how long it's going to take to kill him. They can't use their normal kill combos as it just won't kill him, so champions like an assassin or a burst mage don't have any targets they can kill, finishing the build with a Blade of the Ruin King to finally add in some lifesteal, or going even tankier buying something like a Randuin's, guaranteeing that crit champions won't be able to deal with him either, decreasing the threat of the enemy's AD carry. But one big issue with this build is lower single target damage, so objectives like Baron are harder for them to force. But in exchange, his team fighting is way better. In teamfights he still likes to flank, using stealth to surprise enemies after they've used all their CC, aiming to catch out one target with his range and kill them. It's ideal if enemies are bunched up together, as that will give him more AoE damage. This build specifically is higher damage overall than crit or on hit if there are 3 or more enemies in a fight. So even in these most important moments where Twitch has to carry, this build looks way better, staying alive for longer and outputting more damage. The biggest change is that he will not die to a bruiser if they dive him, so your only real threat is against multiple high damage enemies. No longer scared of full tanks with 0 damage items that would usually kill him, it feels like playing an AD carry from years ago with much more room for mistakes, but still having great damage. One thing he mentions is vital is Triumph in fights. This heals for 5% missing health when you get a takedown. On a normal AD carry, this rune's pretty bad, as it would only heal you for about 50 health, but if you have 4000 HP on tank Twitch from all these runes and items, every time you get a takedown you're going to get hundreds of healing per kill, and this can let him snowball fights, a bit like having Death's Dance. Late game this pick looks very similar to a normal Twitch AD carry, the same damage if not even higher against a group of enemies. The main difference is that if an assassin goes on him, they won't kill him. It's not even worth using all of their abilities to try and all in, as they can see it's not working, and Twitch is taking ghosts to chase them down if they try and run away. To rate this pick, I think it's quite obvious. His laning strategy makes the champion better, his build makes the champion safer, he gets lower cooldowns, and even gets higher damage in some situations. The champion won't die as often, making it more reliable and baiting enemies in for free advantages. It's really a no-brainer to play this pick. The only time this build's really worse is if you're trying to get picks, especially against tanks or bruisers who he struggles to kill, but that's a pretty good trade-off for the safety that it gives. Our player really recommends this build for every rank, saying it's super easy to pick up and very rewarding even after just a few games. I think we've really found a build that beats the current meta, making enemies' damage irrelevant and still being able to carry fights with great scaling. Our player made sure to mention that it must be picked with an engage support like Alistar or Rel, as on this build you don't need the protection of a shield support. And also that Braum is a vital ban as well, super good against Twitch as he blocks all of your auto attacks, reducing your damage close to 0, and Twitch cannot kill Braum either. For the full tank Twitch build, here are all the options. Slotting in Berserker Greaves most games, but steel caps against a full AD enemy team are another great option. Maxing E first always for the damage, with Q second for more playmaking. The runes are really where more tankiness comes in, having lethal tempo as his keystone, but secondaries like Triumph to keep him alive in fights, and Overgrowth and Conditioning in his other runes. The Overgrowth combos with Titanic for more damage as it scales with health, and Conditioning to gain extra resistances for team fights, just showing how focused he is on staying alive. To see more tank Twitch, this Twitch has a Twitch channel linked in the description, currently playing it in Grandmaster, and also a TikTok for all of his highlight plays. Thanks again to him for all of the great information, and thanks as well to Mobilytics for sponsoring this video, the new best League of Legends companion app with so many new features. Thanks so much for watching.